I am Allison, 29 years old, and I always tried to maintain a good relationship with my sister Jennifer, despite our differences. When I received her birthday dinner invitation, I was genuinely excited to celebrate with her. But arriving at the upscale restaurant, I discovered my seat was at the kids' table. My brother-in-law Derek smirked, saying only important guests sit with the adults. Worse, there was no plate for me. Jennifer just shrugged and said, "I guess you are not that important." I stood up, took my gift, and said, "Then I am leaving." Jennifer froze. If you are watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up to family members who did not value you. Growing up, Jennifer and I shared a bedroom in our modest suburban home in Michigan with just 3 years between us. She was the older sister I looked up to throughout my childhood. We would build blanket forts together, share secrets under flashlight after bedtime, and defend each other from playground bullies. I still remember how she taught me to ride a bike when I was 6, running alongside me until I found my balance. Those memories make what happened at her birthday dinner even more painful. Our close relationship began changing during our college years. I chose to pursue education at the state university, while Jennifer attended an expensive private college on a partial scholarship. The different social circles we moved in started creating a subtle divide. She began dating wealthy classmates while I focused on my teaching program and worked part-time jobs to minimize student loans. Then, 5 years ago, Jennifer met Derek from a prominent family with old money. Derek worked at his father's investment firm and introduced Jennifer to a lifestyle she had never experienced before. Designer clothes replaced her thrift store finds. International vacations replaced our traditional sister's weekend at the lake with each passing month. I watched my sister transform into someone increasingly preoccupied with status and appearances. Meanwhile, I completed my degree and secured a position teaching 3rd grade at Hillside Elementary. I love my job, despite the modest salary. The joy of watching my students progress and grow gives me a fulfillment that no paycheck could match. Jennifer once understood this passion, even volunteering in my classroom during her visits home from college. Now she introduces me at social gatherings with a dismissive, "This is my sister Allison. She is just a teacher." The shift in our relationship accelerated after our parents died in a car accident 2 years ago. Mom and Dad had always been the glue holding our family together, hosting Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings that temporarily bridged the growing gap between Jennifer and me without their stabilizing presence. Jennifer fully embraced Derek's world while I was left grieving both my parents and the sister I once knew. Despite these changes, I made consistent efforts to maintain our relationship. I attended every dinner party Jennifer hosted, even when I felt completely out of place among her wealthy friends. I listened to her stories about exotic vacations and country club memberships without mentioning my summer teaching struggling students at a literacy camp. I sent thoughtful birthday and Christmas gifts, while she increasingly responded with impersonal gift cards. The tensions intensified in the months leading up to her 32nd birthday dinner. Jennifer canceled our lunch plans 3 times, always with last-minute texts citing vague excuses about Derek's work, events, or impromptu shopping trips. When we did speak on the phone, she would cut conversations short or talk exclusively about her recent purchases or renovations to their lakefront home. Still, when the formal invitation arrived for her birthday celebration at Aspen, the most exclusive restaurant in our city, I was hopeful. Perhaps this would be an opportunity to reconnect. I spent 2 weeks searching for the perfect gift, eventually finding a vintage silver locket identical to one our grandmother had given Jennifer, which she had lost years ago. I had it engraved with our grandmother's initials and spent nearly a full paycheck to purchase it. The gift represented everything I hoped we could recapture in our relationship, our shared history, family connection, and the genuine affection that once existed between us. As I prepared for the dinner, I carefully selected my outfit, a navy blue dress I had splurged on specifically for the occasion. I spent extra time on my hair and makeup, wanting to fit in with Jennifer's sophisticated friends. I practiced friendly conversation topics for Derek's business associates, who would undoubtedly be there. Most importantly, I mentally prepared myself to be warm and positive, determined to use the celebration as a fresh start for our strained relationship. The evening of the dinner, I felt a mixture of anxiety and hope as I drove to the restaurant. The carefully wrapped gift box on the passenger seat beside me. I had no idea that within an hour I would be driving back along the same road alone and in tears with that same gift box representing not reconciliation, but the final breaking point in our relationship. The valet took my keys with a barely concealed look of surprise as he glanced between me and my 10-year-old sedan around me. Guests arrived in luxury vehicles that cost more than my annual salary. I smoothed my dress nervously and approached the gleaming glass doors of Aspen, where a doorman in a tailored suit nodded curtly as he ushered me inside. The restaurant interior was a study in understated luxury, with soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and intimate tables spaced for privacy. A fountain constructed of illuminated glass panels served as the centerpiece, casting a soft blue glow across the white marble floor. I gave Jennifer's name to the maitre d', who consulted his tablet and led me through the main dining area toward a semi-private back section reserved for their party. As we approached, I spotted Jennifer immediately. She was radiant in a red designer dress, her hair professionally styled, laughing as she accepted a glass of champagne from a waiter. Derek stood beside her in a perfectly tailored gray suit, his arm persuasively around her waist, as he chatted with an older couple I recognized as his parents. Around them gathered about 20 guests, all impeccably dressed, all fitting seamlessly into this world of privilege that had become my sister's reality. Jennifer noticed me and waved her smile, not quite reaching her eyes. "Allison, you made it." She air-kissed near my cheeks, careful not to smudge her makeup. "Derek, look who is here." Derek turned his handshake firm but brief. "Allison, nice of you to join us." His tone suggested the opposite. "Jennifer was just saying she was not sure you would come." "I would not miss my sister's birthday," I replied, handing Jennifer the gift bag containing the locket. "Happy birthday, Jen." She took it with a distracted thanks before immediately setting it on a table with other presents, most in packaging from luxury retailers. Before I could say more, she was pulled away by a friend calling her name, leaving me standing awkwardly beside Derek. "Let me show you to your seat," he said after a moment, guiding me not toward the elegantly set main table where adults were already gathering, but toward a smaller table in the corner. At first, I did not understand. The table was lower, the chairs smaller. Then I saw the coloring placemats and crayon cups. A high chair stood at one end. "This is the kids' table," I said, confusion turning rapidly to humiliation as I realized what was happening. Derek's smirk confirmed my worst fear. "Only important guests sit with the adults," he said, loud enough that several nearby conversations paused. Heads turned in our direction. "Jennifer thought you would be more comfortable here. You are a teacher after all, used to being with children." The blood rushed to my face as I stood frozen, aware of curious and pitying glances from the other guests at the main table. Crystal glasses caught the light as waiters poured wine at this table. Plastic cups with lids awaited the children who had not yet arrived. I looked around for Jennifer, finding her, watching the interaction from across the room. Rather than intervening, she simply turned back to her conversation, tacitly approving Derek's behavior. "There must be some mistake," I said quietly, trying to maintain my dignity. "I will just go speak with Jennifer." Derek shrugged. "Suit yourself." But the seating arrangement was her idea. I made my way to my sister, conscious of every step across the now seemingly endless restaurant floor. "Jennifer, there seems to be some confusion about the seating," I began. She glanced at me with impatience. "What is the problem now, Allison?" Derek seated me at the children's table. I explained, keeping my voice low. Jennifer sighed. "The adult table is full with our friends and Derek's business associates." "I thought you would understand." "Understand?" "Being publicly humiliated?" I asked, my voice cracking despite my efforts to remain composed. "You are being dramatic," she replied. "It is just a seating arrangement." I took a deep breath. "Fine. I will sit wherever you want me to. Just have them set a place for me." Jennifer exchanged glances with Derek, who had followed me over. An unspoken communication passed between them before she turned back to me. Actually, there is no place setting for you at either table. We were not sure you would come, given how busy you said you have been with school. I RSVP'd yes 2 weeks ago, I said, the hurt and confusion evident in my voice. Jennifer shrugged, glancing around as though worried her guests might notice our conversation. Well, I guess you are not that important, she said dismissively. Just grab a seat wherever, and I will have the server bring you a setting. The casual cruelty of her words hit me like a physical blow. In that moment, everything became clear. The missing place setting was not an oversight. This entire situation was a deliberate attempt to put me in my place, to demonstrate just how far outside their circle I had fallen. I looked at my sister, this stranger in expensive clothes who once shared ice cream cones and secrets with me, and made my decision. Then I am leaving, I said, keeping my voice steady as I reached for the gift bag containing the locket. Happy birthday, Jennifer. Jennifer froze, clearly not expecting this response for a brief moment. I caught a glimpse of uncertainty in her eyes, quickly replaced by defensive anger. You're overreacting as usual, she said coldly. If you leave now, do not expect another invitation. I would not want one, I replied, turning to walk away as I moved toward the exit. I heard whispered conversations resume behind me, whether they were talking about the scene they had just witnessed or simply returning to their previous discussions. I did not know or care. The valet looked surprised to see me returning so soon, but fetched my car without comment. It was only when I was safely inside my vehicle, doors locked and the restaurant disappearing in my rearview mirror, that I allowed the tears to fall. The drive home passed in a blur of tears and traffic lights. I barely registered the familiar streets of my neighborhood. As I pulled into my apartment complex, hands shaking on the steering wheel, the gift bag sat accusingly on the passenger seat, a symbol of hopes now thoroughly crushed inside my apartment. I kicked off my heels and collapsed onto the couch, still in my carefully chosen dress. Memories ambushed me without mercy. Jennifer teaching me to apply mascara before my first date, holding my hand at our parents' funeral, laughing together at inside jokes no one else understood, each happy recollection now tainted by the cold dismissal in her eyes at the restaurant. This was not the first slight I had endured from Jennifer and Derek, though it was certainly the most public last Christmas. They had given everyone in the family personalized gifts except me. I received a generic gift card with the wrong name printed on the envelope at their housewarming party. Derek had loudly commented on my sensible shoes, making air quotes around the word while his friends snickered. Just last month, Jennifer had promised to meet me for coffee to discuss plans for our parents' memorial service anniversary, only to text an hour after our scheduled meeting time that she was getting a facial with friends instead. Each incident I had excused, rationalized, or swallowed down. She is busy. He does not mean it that way. Family is complicated. Tonight had stripped away those comfortable sections, leaving only the painful truth. My sister had deliberately humiliated me and felt justified in doing so. My phone began buzzing with text messages as I sat in my darkened living room. The first came from Kara, my best friend since college. Just heard what happened from Madison, who was at the restaurant coming over with wine and cookies. No arguments. I had forgotten that Madison, a fellow teacher who moonlighted as a server at Aspen, was working tonight. News traveled fast. More messages followed from mutual acquaintances who had been at the dinner. That was so awkward. Are you okay? Jennifer seems different these days. Not in a good way. Maybe I should have just sat down. Families argue sometimes. That last one stung. The suggestion that I should have accepted the humiliation to keep the peace was exactly the kind of thinking that had allowed Jennifer's behavior to escalate over the years. True to her word, Kara arrived 30 minutes later, bearing wine, chocolate chip cookies, and fierce loyalty. She took one look at my tear-streaked face and pulled me into a hug. That absolute which she said as she poured 2 generous glasses of Cabernet. And that husband of hers is even worse. I keep thinking I must have done something to deserve this, I admitted, wrapping myself in the throw blanket Kara had brought over. Why else would she treat me this way? Kara's expression hardened. Stop that right now. No one deserves public humiliation, especially not from family. This is not about you. This is about Jennifer and whatever twisted values she has adopted. As the night progressed and the wine bottle emptied, I found myself revealing incidents I had never shared with anyone. The time Jennifer had forgotten to tell me about our cousin's wedding until the day before, making it impossible for me to attend the dinner at their house, where Derek had spent 20 minutes detailing the tax benefits of a real income. Looking directly at me the Christmas morning, when Jennifer had commented that my gift to our mother looked homemade, her tone making the words sound like an insult. "Why have you never told me these things?" Kara demanded, her expression a mixture of shock and concern because saying them out loud would make them real. I whispered, "And because they sound so petty individually, it is only when you put them all together that you see the pattern." "A pattern of emotional abuse," Kara said firmly, "and it stops now." We talked until the early hours of the morning, emptying a second wine bottle and finishing the cookies, as painful as the evening had been. Something shifted inside me as I spoke about years of accumulated hurts. The guilt and confusion that had been my constant companions began to lift, replaced by a growing sense of clarity and resolve. "I do not want to cut her out of my life," I admitted, as Kara prepared to leave. "She is my only sister, but I cannot keep pretending this is normal or acceptable, either." Kara hugged me tightly at the door. "You do not have to decide everything tonight. Just promise me you will not let them make you feel small again." After she left, I sat alone in my quiet apartment, surrounded by the remnants of our impromptu therapy session. Something had broken inside me tonight, but something else was being forged in its place. A boundary, a standard, a recognition that family bonds did not justify emotional wounds. I placed the gift bag containing the locket on my bookshelf, a reminder, not a failure, but of my own worth. I had chosen that gift with love and thoughtfulness, qualities Jennifer and Derek had rejected tonight. Their loss, not mine. As I finally prepared for bed, my phone chimed with a text from Jennifer. "You made a scene tonight. We need to talk tomorrow. I will come by after yoga." No apology, no acknowledgement, just an expectation that I would be waiting for her convenience, ready to absorb whatever justification she offered for her behavior. For the first time in our relationship, I did not immediately respond, and instead I turned off my phone and went to bed, mentally preparing for a confrontation that was long overdue. The sharp knock on my apartment door came at precisely 11 the next morning. I had been awake for hours, alternating between rehearsing what I wanted to say and trying to predict Jennifer's approach. Would she be defensive, dismissive? Would she attempt to gaslight me into believing last night had been a misunderstanding? I opened the door to find her in designer yoga wear, looking flawless except for the tight set of her mouth. She brushed past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. "You could have answered my text," she said, setting her purse on my counter and surveying my modest living room with barely concealed judgment. I was worried. "Were you?" I asked, closing the door, but remaining standing. That would be a first. Her eyes narrowed. "If you invited me over just to be hostile, I can leave." "I did not invite you at all," I pointed out. "You announced you were coming." Jennifer sighed dramatically and perched on the edge of my couch. "Look, I do not know why you are making such a big deal about last night. It was just a seating arrangement." "It was a deliberate humiliation," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "You and Derek went out of your way to make me feel unwelcome and insignificant. You are being way too sensitive," she countered. "It was a joke. Jokes are funny. This was cruel, and it was not just last night, Jennifer. This has been happening for years, ever since you met Derek." She rolled her eyes. "Here we go. I knew you would blame Derek somehow. You have never liked him. This is not about liking Derek. This is about how you have changed since being with him. The sister I grew up with would never have seated family at a kid's table or told them they were not important enough for a place setting." Jennifer's composure slipped momentarily. "You have no idea what my life is like now," she said, a hint of something vulnerable breaking through her polished exterior. "Derek's family has expectations. His friends and colleagues judge everything we do. Every dinner party, every outfit, every vacation has to be perfect, and I do not fit into that perfect picture. I said, the realization dawning on me is that am I an embarrassment to you? She did not answer directly, which was an answer in itself. You have chosen a different path. There is nothing wrong with teaching, Allison, but you have to admit, we do not exactly move in the same circles anymore. So you thought putting me at the kids' table was appropriate? Telling me I was not important enough for a place setting? I did not mean it that way. She protested, though her eyes slid away from mine. The adults' table really was full with people. Derek needs to impress for work, and honestly, I did not think you would want to sit through conversations about investment portfolios and vacation properties. That should have been my choice to make, I said. Instead, you and Derek decided to humiliate me in front of everyone. Jennifer stood up abruptly, pacing my small living room. You have always been so judgmental about my lifestyle, looking down on me for enjoying nice things, for wanting more than what Mom and Dad settled for. The accusation was so backwards, it momentarily stunned me. I have never judged you for your choices, Jennifer. I have only wanted you to stop judging me for mine. That is not true. She shot back, her voice rising. You were always Mom and Dad's favorite, the responsible one, the one who made all the right choices. Do you know how hard it was growing up in your shadow? The perfect daughter who never caused problems. I stared at her in disbelief. Is that what you think? That I was the favorite? Of course you were. Dad helped you buy her first car. Mom kept every single one of your school awards. When I wanted to study fashion, they told me to pick something practical. When you decided to become a teacher, they were thrilled. They were proud of both of us. I insisted. They helped me with my car because I was working 2 jobs and saving every penny. They encouraged you to get a business degree so you would have options. Well, I have options now, Jennifer said bitterly. Derek has given me everything I ever wanted. Something in her tone made me pause. Has he? Are you actually happy, Jennifer? The question hung in the air between us for a moment. Her carefully constructed facade wavered, and I caught a glimpse of something that looked remarkably like uncertainty. Of course I am happy, she said, but the words sounded rehearsed. We have a beautiful home, amazing friends, the perfect life, a perfect life where you treat your sister like an unwanted obligation. Her face flushed. That is not fair. None of this is fair. I agreed, and I think there is more going on than you are telling me. Jennifer turned away, staring out my apartment window. The silence stretched between us until she finally spoke, her voice so quiet I had to strain to hear it. Derek's investment firm is under investigation. They have frozen some of the accounts. We have had to cut back on everything, but no one can know. His parents would disown him if they found out he mismanaged client funds. The revelation explained so much: the increasingly desperate attempts to maintain appearances, the heightened status anxiety, the need to impress Derek's business associates at the birthday dinner. Jennifer, if you are in trouble, I can help, I offered. Not financially, but I am here for you. She whirled around, eyes flashing. I do not need your help or your pity. We will be fine once this blows over. Derek has connections, and in the meantime, you will keep pushing away the people who actually care about you, who do not care about your address or your car or your designer clothes. You do not understand the pressure? She insisted. If we do not maintain our social standing, we lose everything. The invitations stop, the connections disappear. We become nobodies. Like me. I asked quietly. She had the grace to look ashamed, but only for a moment. I did not mean it that way. Yes, you did. And that is why I left last night. Because I refused to be treated like a nobody by my own sister. Jennifer grabbed her purse, clearly ready to end the conversation. I came here hoping you would apologize for making a scene and embarrassing me in front of our guests. I see that was too much to expect. The audacity of her statement left me speechless for a moment. You want me to apologize to you? If you cannot see how your behavior reflected poorly on everyone involved? Then we have nothing more to discuss, she said, heading for the door. I found my voice just as her hand reached the doorknob. Jennifer, if you leave now without acknowledging what you did, I cannot guarantee I will be here waiting when you decide you need your sister again." She paused, and for a heartbreaking moment, I thought she might turn around, might choose our relationship over her pride. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and opened the door. "Goodbye, Allison." The door closed behind her with a quiet click that somehow hurt more than if she had slammed it. I stood in the middle of my apartment, shaking with adrenaline and grief, facing the painful realization that the sister I had grown up with might truly be lost to me. The days following Jennifer's visit blended together in a fog of emotional exhaustion. I called in sick to school on Monday, something I rarely did. Unable to face the thought of summoning enthusiasm for 28 third graders, by Tuesday, I forced myself back into the classroom, but my colleagues noticed the difference immediately. "You seem distracted," observed Grace, the fourth grade teacher whose classroom was next to mine. "Everything okay?" I gave her the abbreviated version during our lunch break, expecting the usual platitudes about family, being family, and how we should always forgive. Instead, she surprised me. "Some relationships are toxic even when they are with family," she said, stirring her salad thoughtfully. "Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to create distance." Her words stayed with me throughout the day as I moved through my lessons on autopilot. The children sensed my distraction, becoming restless and chatty by the final bell. I felt like a failure, both personally and professionally. That evening, I found myself pulling out old photo albums stored in my closet. Pictures of Jennifer and me as children, gap-toothed and grinning in matching summer dresses, snapshots from family vacations, teenage years, college graduations, the visual evidence of a relationship that had once been central to my identity. Behind the photo albums, I discovered a box of our parents' personal items that I had inherited after their death. Jennifer had shown no interest in most of the contents, taking only our mother's jewelry and a few valuable antiques. I had kept the rest, unable to part with these tangible connections to our parents. Inside were bundles of letters our parents had written to each other during their early relationship, birthday cards we had made for them as children, and their personal journals. I had never read the journals, feeling it would somehow violate their privacy, but now, seeking connection and perhaps answers, I carefully opened my mother's most recent diary. The entry, dated just 3 months before the accident, caught my attention immediately. Worried about Jennifer and her relationship with Derek, she seems to be changing, becoming someone I do not recognize. Allison tried to talk to her about it last week, and they argued terribly. I wish they could find their way back to the closeness they once shared. Family is too precious to lose over pride and appearances. My mother's words brought fresh tears. She had seen the changes in Jennifer long before they became impossible to ignore, and she had witnessed my early attempts to address them. Attempts that had clearly failed. I continued reading entries from the last year of my mother's life, finding repeated concerns about Jennifer's relationship with Derek and her growing materialism. There were also numerous expressions of pride in my teaching career and worry that I worked too hard without taking time for myself. One of the final entries hit me particularly hard. Allison carries so much responsibility, always the peacemaker, always putting others first. I worry she will spend her life trying to fix relationships that cannot be fixed, sacrificing her own happiness in the process. My gentle, compassionate daughter needs to learn that she cannot pour from an empty cup. My mother's posthumous insight struck with the force of revelation. How much of my identity had been wrapped up in being the responsible sister, the one who maintained family connections, who smoothed over conflicts and swallowed hurts to keep the peace. Had I been enabling Jennifer's behavior by consistently accepting it? The next morning, I called the school's counselor, who recommended a therapist specializing in family dynamics. Dr. Winters had an opening the following week, and I scheduled an appointment determined to gain perspective on whether my relationship with Jennifer could or should be salvaged. In the meantime, my performance at school continued to suffer. I found myself snapping at students over minor infractions, then overcompensating with excessive praise during a parent conference. I completely forgot which math standards we were currently covering. My principal, Diane, called me into her office on Friday afternoon. "You are one of our strongest teachers, Allison," she said kindly. "But clearly something is affecting your work. Do you want to talk about it?" The simple question broke through my carefully maintained composure. Before I knew it, I was telling her everything from the birthday dinner humiliation to the confrontation with Jennifer, to my growing realization that I might have to accept the loss of my only sibling. Diane listened without interruption, then shared that she had been estranged from her own brother for nearly a decade. "It was the hardest decision I ever made," she admitted, "but it was also necessary for my mental health. Sometimes the family we choose is more supportive than the family we are born into." Her words reminded me of Kara's unwavering support, of Grace's understanding of the community I had built around me, people who valued me for exactly who I was, not who they wanted me to be. That weekend, I began the painful process of examining every interaction with Jennifer over the past 5 years, identifying patterns I had previously excused or minimized. I created a timeline of incidents where she or Derek had deliberately diminished me. Finding the frequency had increased dramatically in recent months. Seeing it all laid out chronologically was both validating and heartbreaking. By the time I met with Dr. Winters the following Wednesday, I had reached a difficult conclusion. I needed to establish firm boundaries with Jennifer, even if that meant limited or no contact for a while. Family estrangement is sometimes viewed as a failure, Dr. Winters noted during our session, but it can actually be a healthy response to chronic mistreatment. The question is not whether you should maintain a relationship with your sister, but what kind of relationship would be healthy for both of you. I do not think Jennifer is interested in a healthy relationship. I admit it. She wants me to play a specific role that validates her choices and makes her feel superior. And that role is damaging to your self-worth, Dr. Winters observed. Have you considered what a relationship with appropriate boundaries might look like? We spent the remainder of the session outlining those boundaries. No more accepting last-minute cancellations. No more tolerating belittling comments about my career or lifestyle. No more pretending Derek's behavior was acceptable. Setting boundaries is not about punishing Jennifer. Dr. Winters emphasized as our time ended, it is about creating conditions where a healthier relationship might eventually be possible, but you have to be prepared for her to reject those conditions. I left the session feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The path forward was not clear, but at least I had stopped circling the same painful ground. Whether Jennifer and I could rebuild our relationship remains to be seen, but I was no longer willing to sacrifice my dignity and self-respect to maintain the pretense of sisterly closeness. That evening, I finally removed the gift bag containing the locket from my bookshelf. I considered returning it to the jewelry store, but decided against it. Instead, I placed it in a drawer with a note to myself, a reminder that my capacity for love and generosity is not diminished by someone's inability to receive it. It was a small act of self-affirmation, but in that moment it felt like the beginning of healing. 2 months passed without contact from Jennifer. The silence was both painful and liberating. I threw myself into my teaching, developing new creative projects for my 3rd graders. Thought earned recognition from the district superintendent. I joined a weekend hiking group discovering unexpected joy and physical challenges, and the camaraderie of fellow outdoor enthusiasts. I even agreed to a dinner date with Lucas, the charming 5th grade science teacher who had been asking me out for months. My weekly sessions with Dr. Winters continued, each one providing new insights into the family dynamics that had shaped my relationship with Jennifer. I began to understand how her parents' unintentional favoritism had created competition between us, how Jennifer's insecurities had found fertile ground in Derek's materialistic values, and how my own need for approval had kept me accepting treatment I should have rejected long ago. "You seem different," Kara observed one evening as we prepared dinner and my apartment more confident. "I feel different," I admitted, surprising myself with the realization, like I have been carrying this weight for years, trying to maintain a relationship with Jennifer at any cost. Now that I have put it down, I can stand up straight. "Have you heard anything from her?" Kara asked carefully, avoiding judgment and her tone. Nothing directly, I said, but Madison mentioned seeing her and Derek arguing at Aspen last week. Apparently it got intense enough that they left separately. I had deliberately avoided seeking information about Jennifer, but occasional updates filtered through our overlapping social circles. Each one brought a mixture of concern and relief that their problems were no longer mine to manage. The unexpected turning point came on a rainy Tuesday in April. I was grocery shopping after school when I literally collided shopping carts with Elaine, one of Jennifer's closest friends from her social circle. "Allison," she exclaimed, looking genuinely pleased to see me. "How have you been?" "I am good," I replied, surprised by her warmth. Given her loyalty to Jennifer, "How are you?" "Oh, hanging in there," she said with a grimace. "Work has been crazy, and honestly, all the drama with Jennifer and Derek has been exhausting." I tensed, preparing for an accusation about abandoning my sister during difficult times. Instead, Elaine lowered her voice. "Look, I do not know what happened between you two, but Jennifer has not been herself lately. Derek has been absolutely controlling everything. Isolate her from friends who question his decisions. A few of us have tried to reach out, but she cancels plans at the last minute, usually with excuses that sound like they came directly from him." The information confirmed my worst fears about their relationship. I did not realize it had gotten that bad. Elaine glanced around as though worried about being overheard. "There are rumors about financial improprieties at his firm. Nothing confirmed, but enough smoke to suggest fire and the way he monitors her spending, now her calls, her friendships. It is concerning." My protective instincts surged despite everything that had happened. Has anyone tried to talk to her directly about this? We have all tried in our ways. Elaine sighed. "But you know, Jennifer Pride is her middle name. She would never admit something is wrong, especially to the friends she has been flaunting her perfect life to for years." We exchanged numbers before parting, Elaine promising to keep me updated if the situation with Jennifer worsened. I finished my shopping in a daze, my carefully constructed emotional distance from my sister's problems crumbling with each new piece of information at home. I paced my apartment, debating what, if anything, I should do. The boundary I had established with Jennifer was necessary for my well-being, but the thought of her trapped in a controlling relationship overrode my personal hurt. After much deliberation, I decided to write her a letter, not an email that could be easily deleted or a text that Derek might see, but an actual handwritten letter that she could read privately and consider at her own pace. I spent hours drafting and redrafting, careful to avoid accusations or conditions that might make her defensive. The final version read, "Dear Jennifer, I am writing to tell you that despite everything that has happened between us, you remain. My sister and I care about your well-being. If you ever need support, a safe place to stay, or simply someone to talk to without judgment, I am here for you. No questions asked, no past grievances revisited. This is not an attempt to force reconciliation or to make you explain your choices. It is simply an open door that you can walk through if and when you choose to. I miss the person you were before appearances and status became so important. I believe that person is still there beneath the surface. When you are ready to reconnect with her, I would like to be part of your journey with love, Allison." I mailed the letter the next day, addressing it to Jennifer's office rather than her home to reduce the chance of Derek intercepting it. Then I returned to my life, continuing the personal growth and healing I had begun, not expecting an immediate response or perhaps any response at all. Weeks passed without a word from Jennifer. I remained committed to my boundaries while keeping the door open. Should she choose to reach out, the spring turned to summer, bringing the end of the school year and the freedom of vacation. I accepted a position teaching at a summer enrichment program for disadvantaged students, finding fulfillment and helping children, who reminded me of Jennifer and myself at that age, before life's complications pulled us in different directions. My friendship circle expanded through the hiking group and book club. Kara had convinced me to join. My tentative dating relationship with Lucas developed into something more substantial, bringing joy and companionship I had not expected. For the first time in years, I felt fully present in my own life, rather than orbiting around Jennifer's drama. On a sweltering July evening, I returned home from a day at the lake with friends to find a small envelope that had been slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a single sheet of paper with just 3 words in Jennifer's distinctive handwriting: "I need help." The note trembled in my hand as I immediately called Jennifer's cell phone. No answer. I tried her office line with the same result, fighting rising panic. I remembered Elaine and dialed her number. "I have not seen her in days," Elaine admitted, after I explained about the note, "but there have been rumors that Derek's firm is facing serious fraud charges. The partners are all lawyering up." After several more fruitless calls, I grabbed my keys and drove to Jennifer's house, a sprawling lakefront property I had visited only a handful of times. No cars in the driveway, no answer at the door. Neighbors reported seeing Jennifer leave with a suitcase that morning alone. I returned home, leaving messages everywhere I could think of, then settled in to wait, jumping at every sound outside my door. Around midnight, my doorbell finally rang. Jennifer stood in the hallway, a small suitcase beside her without her usual perfect makeup and designer clothes. Dressed in jeans and a simple t-shirt, she looked younger and somehow more like the sister I remembered. "I did not know where else to go," she said, her voice rough from crying. I wordlessly stepped aside, letting her enter. She moved hesitantly into my apartment as though expecting judgment or questions. Instead, I simply asked, "Are you hungry?" The simple normalcy of the question seemed to break something loose inside her. She nodded, tears streaming down her face while I reheated leftover pasta. Jennifer sat at my kitchen counter, slowly revealing what had happened. Derek's investment schemes had finally collapsed. Federal investigators have frozen their accounts. Their house was being seized. Most devastatingly, Derek had transferred assets to an offshore account in only his name before disappearing 3 days ago, leaving Jennifer to face the consequences alone. "Everything we had is gone," she said, "wholly. The house, the cars, the savings, even my jewelry. The investigators took it all as evidence. The only reason I am not in custody is because they believe I was unaware of the fraud." "Were you?" I asked gently, placing food in front of her. "I suspected something was wrong," she admitted, "but I did not want to know the details. It was easier to focus on maintaining appearances, throwing the right parties, wearing the right clothes. I convinced myself that was my contribution to our success." We talked until dawn, 6 months of silence dissolving into hours of painful honesty. Jennifer acknowledged how terribly she had treated me, how she had allowed Derek's values to override her own, how she had sacrificed authentic relationships for status and approval. "I was jealous of you," she confessed as sunlight began filtering through my curtains. "You always seemed so content with your choices, so certain of your path." I was constantly seeking external validation because I had none of my own. "I was jealous of you too," I admitted. "Your confidence, your social ease. I thought you had everything figured out." She laughed bitterly. "I had nothing figured out. I was just better at faking it." In the days that followed, Jennifer slept on my couch while we navigated the practical and emotional aftermath of her life's implosion. She met with federal investigators, filed for divorce, and faced the humiliating process of having her personal finances scrutinized by authorities and gossiped about by former friends. The Jennifer who emerged from this crucible was neither the adoring sister of our childhood nor the status-obsessed stranger of recent years. She was someone new, humbled by circumstance, but also discovering reserves of strength she had not known she possessed. "I do not know who I am without all the trappings," she admitted one evening. 6 weeks into her stay. "For so long, my identity has been Mrs. Derek Harrington, with the perfect house and the perfect wardrobe. You get to decide who you want to be now," I told her. "That is terrifying, but also incredibly freeing." Our relationship rebuilt itself slowly, each conversation adding another brick to the foundation. There were difficult moments when old patterns threatened to resurface. Jennifer would make a dismissive comment about my apartment size, then catch herself with a horrified expression. I would bristle at her taking over my kitchen without asking, then remind myself that learning to share space again required patience from both of us. 3 months after showing up at my door, Jennifer found a job as an administrative assistant at a local nonprofit and rented a small apartment nearby. The work was far below her qualifications, but she approached it with unexpected humility. "I want to earn my way back," she explained when I expressed surprise at her career choice, not just financially, but as a person worth respecting. To celebrate her new beginning, I suggested hosting a small dinner at my apartment. Not an elaborate affair like her birthday celebration had been, but a gathering of people who had supported both of us through this difficult period. Kara Grace from school, Lucas, and a few of Jennifer's new colleagues who had welcomed her without judgment. As we prepared the food together, I noticed Jennifer arranging place settings at my dining table, carefully positioning a chair for each person, including a place of honor for herself. "Remember the last time we were at a dinner together?" she asked, catching my eye with a rueful smile. "How could I forget? You put me at the kids' table and told you that you were not important enough for a place setting," she added, wincing at the memory. "I was horrible. Yes, you were." I agreed, but without rancor. "And now you are not. That is what matters." The dinner was nothing like the elaborate social events Jennifer had once hosted, but the laughter and genuine conversation filled my apartment with a warmth that no expensive restaurant could match. Watching Jennifer engage with my friends, showing interest in their lives without judgment or comparison, I glimpsed the sister I had missed for so long. After the guests departed, we sat together on my balcony, looking at the stars visible despite the city lights. "I found Mom's journals when you were staying with me. I confessed she was worried about us, about how we were drifting apart." Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. She would be happy to see us now. "I think she would." I agreed, though she might wish it had not taken such a dramatic series of events to bring us back together. Jennifer laughed softly. "Some lessons I seem to learn, only the hard way." 6 months after Jennifer's world collapsed, we stood together at our parents' graveside on the 3rd anniversary of their passing. In contrast to previous years, when we had visited separately to avoid conflict, we now placed flowers together, sharing memories rather than strained silence. As we walked back to our cars, Jennifer stopped suddenly. "I never thanked you properly," she said, "for being there when I had nowhere else to go for. Not saying I told you so. For giving me a chance to become someone better than I was." "That is what family does," I replied simply. "The real kind, not the kind that exists for appearances." She nodded, understanding the distinction that had taken us both so long to learn. "I am trying to be the real kind now." "You are succeeding," I assured her, and meant it. "Our relationship will never be what it was in childhood. Too much has happened. Too many harsh words exchanged, too many painful lessons learned. But the relationship we are building now is perhaps stronger for having been broken and deliberately, carefully reconstructed. I have learned that family is not defined by unconditional tolerance of mistreatment, but by the willingness to hold space for growth and redemption." Jennifer has learned that true worth comes from within, not from possessions or status symbols. Together, we have discovered that sometimes the most important seat at the table is the one you claim for yourself with dignity and self-respect. If you have ever struggled with family members who did not value you, I hope our story reminds you that standing up for yourself can change not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. The relationships worth keeping are those that allow you to be fully yourself, appreciated not for what you provide or represent, but simply for who you are. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of healing and growth. Have you ever had to establish boundaries with family members? How did it change your relationship? Share your experiences in the comments below. Remember, sometimes walking away is the first step toward building something healthier and more authentic. I am grateful for this community where we can share these difficult truths and support each other.